Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the most shocking twists and emotional turns of your favorite daytime dramas. Today is a fantastic day to unpack some truly explosive developments that are set to change the landscape of our beloved show forever. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let us explore the breathtaking drama unfolding across the Atlantic. Paris, the city of lights and romance, stands in stark, agonizing contrast to the dark, suffocating grief that was consuming Daphne Rose Walton. When she boarded that international flight out of Los Angeles, she genuinely believed she was performing the ultimate, heartbreaking act of selfless love. She was leaving behind Carter Walton, the extraordinary man who completely owned her heart, simply because she believed she could not give him the one thing he desired above all else, a biological child. The devastating diagnosis delivered by Dr. Lee Finnegan, a crushing verdict of premature menopause and irreversible infertility, had echoed in her mind like a death knell for her marriage. Daphne felt she was a broken vessel, and out of profound, painful devotion, she chose to exile herself so Carter could find a woman who could fulfill his lifelong dream of fatherhood. Daphne's arrival in the French capital was supposed to be a clean break, a geographical cure for a deeply psychological wound that refused to heal. She wandered the historic cobblestone streets of Montmartre and stared blankly at the gentle flow of the Seine, carrying the immense, invisible burden of a woman who had sacrificed her own happiness for her husband's future. She continuously convinced herself that Carter needed a partner who could provide him with the bustling, vibrant family he had always dreamed of. In her mind, her departure was a tragic necessity, a painful emotional amputation required to save Carter from a lifetime of hidden resentment and unfulfilled paternal yearning. She spent her first few days in Paris trying to numb the pain, trying to accept that her chapter with Carter Walton was permanently closed. However, fate possesses a uniquely twisted sense of humor, especially within the highly dramatic universe of Forrester Creations and its surrounding elite. During her first week in Paris, Daphne's physical health began to exhibit strange, unpredictable fluctuations. Attributing her sudden bouts of morning nausea and overwhelming exhaustion to the profound emotional trauma of her recent separation and the supposed onset of her early menopause, she reluctantly decided to seek medical attention. She walked into the pristine, high-end clinic of one of France's absolute top reproductive specialists, expecting nothing more than a standard prescription to manage her fluctuating hormonal imbalances and perhaps a sympathetic nod from a foreign doctor who did not know her painful history. What transpired within the sterile, quiet walls of that Parisian clinic would completely and irrevocably shatter the tragic reality Daphne had forced herself to accept. The esteemed French specialist, after conducting a thorough battery of independent blood tests and meticulously reviewing her forwarded medical history, returned to the consultation room with an expression of profound confusion mixed with gentle, undeniable reassurance. He sat Daphne down, looked her directly in the eyes, and delivered a revelation that made the entire room spin violently out of control. Dr. Lee Finnegan's diagnosis back in Los Angeles had been a catastrophic, incredibly rare medical error. There was absolutely no premature menopause. There was no irreversible infertility. The diagnosis that had destroyed her marriage was fundamentally, tragically wrong. The specialist's heavily accented words hung in the air, vibrating with a miraculous truth that Daphne could barely comprehend. He gently turned the glowing ultrasound monitor toward her, his finger pointing to a tiny, rhythmic flutter on the dark screen. Daphne Rose Walton was pregnant. She was in the early, delicate stages of carrying Carter Walton's biological child. The sheer magnitude of this medical miracle washed over her in crashing, overwhelming waves of disbelief, euphoria, and profound relief. The very reason she had torn her life apart, the sole catalyst for her agonizing departure from Los Angeles and the man she loved, had been a total lie born of a clinical mistake. She was not broken. She was blooming with new life. Tears of unadulterated, uncontainable joy streamed down Daphne's face as she stared endlessly at the grainy black and white image of her unborn child. This was the ultimate manifestation of her deepest prayers, the physical embodiment of the profound love she shared with Carter. She vividly imagined the look on Carter's face when he finally heard the spectacular news. She could already see his bright, dimpled smile breaking through his grief, the tears of absolute joy pooling in his eyes, the way his strong arms would lift her into the air and spin her around the room. The beautiful, chaotic future they had so deeply mourned was suddenly, miraculously, handed back to them on a silver platter. The nightmare was finally over. Driven by a fierce, urgent need to share this life-altering miracle with the father of her child, Daphne rushed out of the clinic and onto the bustling Parisian streets. The European air suddenly felt crisp, vibrant, and full of infinite, beautiful possibilities. She desperately needed to hear Carter's deep, soothing voice. She needed to tell him that their agonizing nightmare was officially over, that she was booking the next flight home to Los Angeles, and that she was bringing their greatest, most impossible dream with her. She pulled her smartphone out of her designer purse, her fingers trembling wildly with adrenaline and anticipation, ready to dial the international number that would instantly bridge the gap between her crushing heartbreak and their happily ever after. But the universe of daytime drama is rarely so kind, and timing is often the cruelest, most unforgiving villain of all. Before her trembling thumb could press the call button to connect with Carter, a glaring notification flashed across her digital screen. It was a breaking news alert from a prominent, highly circulated celebrity gossip site, a digital tabloid that frequently and ruthlessly covered the scandalous lives of the Los Angeles fashion elite. The headline was bold, sensational, and utterly paralyzing in its implications. It spoke of a shocking, scandalous new romance born from the ashes of two high-profile broken marriages right in the heart of the Forrester Creations executive offices. Daphne's breath caught violently in her throat as her eyes darted to the accompanying paparazzi photographs. There, in high-definition, undeniable clarity, was her husband, Carter Walton. But he was not alone, and he was certainly not mourning her absence in solitude. He was entangled in a deeply intimate, highly passionate embrace with none other than Steffy Forster Finnegan. The images were stark and undeniable. They captured a moment of raw, unguarded vulnerability and intense physical connection between two people who were clearly seeking desperate solace in each other's arms. The luxurious backdrop of the Forrester Creations CEO office only added a sickening layer of scandalous betrayal to the damning visual evidence. The context of the photos, detailed meticulously in the ruthless tabloid article beneath the images, painted a grim, devastating picture. Steffy Forster Finnegan had recently fled the glamorous shores of Monaco, her marriage to Dr. John Finnegan completely collapsing under the terrifying weight of his ongoing, inexplicable connection to the psychotic Sheila Carter. Steffy had returned to Los Angeles heartbroken, furious, and desperately seeking an emotional escape from her trauma. Carter, meanwhile, was supposedly drowning in the profound grief of Daphne's sudden departure to Paris. Two broken, lonely souls, a shared bottle of expensive alcohol, and the intoxicating proximity of shared misery had ignited a fiery, unexpected hookup that the relentless paparazzi had somehow managed to expose to the entire world. For Daphne, standing frozen on a picturesque Parisian sidewalk with the ultrasound picture in her hand, the world simply stopped spinning. The magnificent euphoria of her miraculous pregnancy was instantly, violently replaced by a sickening, hollow sense of absolute betrayal. Steffy Forster Finnegan was supposed to be her loyal friend. Steffy had stood by her side during the darkest, most painful days of her infertility struggles, offering a supportive shoulder to cry on and words of encouragement. And Carter, the man who had sworn his undying, eternal devotion to her, the man who had promised to stand by her through the agonizing pain of a childless future, had fallen into another woman's bed before the ink on her international boarding pass had even fully dried. A profound, agonizing psychological conflict tore through Daphne's mind, leaving her breathless and dizzy. Just a few fleeting moments ago, she was ready to cross oceans to reunite her fractured family and bring her husband the ultimate joy. Now, looking at the photographic evidence of his infidelity, she felt like an absolute, naive fool. How could she possibly call him now? How could she offer him the pure, innocent gift of a child when he had so quickly and easily sought physical and emotional comfort in the arms of the powerful Forrester co-CEO? The images of Carter and Steffy's passionate, desperate encounter burned themselves permanently into her retinas, serving as a cruel, mocking reminder of the loyalty and love she foolishly thought they shared. Daphne's innate sense of fierce pride, a deeply protective maternal instinct she did not even know she possessed until this very moment, began to rise powerfully above her crushing despair. She absolutely refused to be the pathetic, desperate wife calling from across the world to beg her husband to come back using a surprise pregnancy as emotional leverage. She would not trap Carter Walton in a marriage out of mere obligation or guilt, especially when he had clearly and publicly demonstrated his willingness to move on with a woman of Steffy's status. If Carter and Steffy were finding such profound comfort in their shared tragedy, Daphne decided she would not interrupt their scandalous new romance with her miraculous, life-changing news. With a trembling hand but a rapidly hardening, unbreakable resolve, Daphne closed the tabloid article, locked her phone screen, and slowly put the device back into her purse. She placed a gentle, highly protective hand over her still flat stomach, making a silent, fierce vow to the innocent child growing inside her. She would protect this baby at all costs, shielding it from the toxic drama of Los Angeles. She would raise this child right here in Paris, surrounded by beautiful art, rich culture, and unconditional love, far away from the incestuous, destructive merry-go-round of Forrester Creations' high society. She realized in that empowering moment that she did not need Carter Walton to be a spectacular mother, and she certainly did not need the overwhelming drama of Steffy Forrester Finnegan shadowing her child's life. This pivotal decision marks a monumental, permanent shift in Daphne Rose Walton's character trajectory. She is no longer the weeping, self-sacrificing victim of a cruel medical fate who must step aside for her husband's happiness. She is now a fierce, protective mother, deeply empowered by the miraculous life growing within her, actively choosing independence and self-respect over a compromised, potentially humiliating reunion. She is determined to build a completely new life in France, securing a lucrative job in the European fashion sector, creating a warm home, and preparing meticulously for the arrival of the Walton heir that absolutely no one in Los Angeles knows exists. Her silence is not an act of vindictive malice, but an act of profound, necessary self-preservation. However, as longtime viewers of this dramatic saga know all too well, secrets of this massive magnitude are never truly buried. They are merely planted in the fertile soil of deception, waiting for the perfect, most destructive moment to sprout and strangle the lives of everyone involved. Daphne's unborn child is a literal ticking time bomb with the absolute power to obliterate everything Carter and Steffy are currently attempting to build. As Carter navigates this highly controversial, emotionally charged new romance with Steffy, he remains completely, tragically oblivious to the fact that his ultimate dream, the biological family he has craved for years, is quietly, beautifully becoming a reality across the Atlantic Ocean. The dramatic irony woven into this storyline is palpable and deliciously agonizing for the audience to witness. Every single time Carter looks deeply into Steffy's eyes, desperately seeking a distraction from the lingering pain of losing Daphne, he is unknowingly moving further and further away from the very miracle he prayed for every night. Steffy, already reeling from the severe psychological trauma of Finn's betrayal regarding Sheila, is unwittingly entangling herself in a massive web of deception with a man who is legally tied to a pregnant wife in Europe. When the truth inevitably surfaces, because in the relentless world of Los Angeles fashion, the truth always finds a way to step into the spotlight, the emotional fallout will be nothing short of catastrophic. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated magnitude of the explosion when Carter Walton finally discovers that Dr. Lee Finnegan's gross medical negligence almost cost him his only child, and that Daphne has been bravely raising his baby in secret because of his own impulsive actions. Imagine Steffy Forrester Finnegan's horrified reaction when she realizes her scandalous, healing rebound romance is built on a fragile foundation of medical malpractice, hidden pregnancies, and profound betrayal. The revelation will force Carter into the ultimate, agonizing choice between the new, powerful life he is building with the Forrester heiress and the family he always wanted with the woman who sacrificed everything for him. Until that fateful day arrives, Daphne walks the beautiful streets of Paris, a silent, strong guardian of the show's most explosive secret, simply waiting for the clock to strike 0.